We live under the constant anxiety of a moving target. Society forces us to define our self-worth through our productivity metrics, our daily output, and a curated loop of digital validation. Systematic theology offers a radically different metric. Your value is not a variable equation based on what you produce. It is a fixed blueprint secured entirely by divine design. We are going to deconstruct exactly what theologian Wayne Grudem means by the phrase image of God. To do this, we will examine the original linguistic data, the arc of redemptive history, and a detailed 13-part taxonomy of human likeness. Understanding this doctrine strips away the idea that you are a disposable economic machine and establishes you as an eternal mirror of the Creator. To understand that mirror, we first have to address a pervasive myth within modern Christianity. It operates as a functional Gnosticism, treating the physical body as a temporary, corrupted shell, and assuming that only the immaterial spirit actually holds theological value. Wayne Grudem argues the exact opposite. The physical body is not an accident or a prison to escape. It is a meticulously designed instrument meant to reflect God's own nature into the visible world. Think about the most essential spiritual functions you perform: worship, prayer, acts of justice, and moral judgments. None of these happen in a vacuum. They strictly require a physical body to be executed in the material realm. Even the biological reality of bearing children is sacred. The physical ability to create human beings who look like us directly mirrors God's infinite creative power to make humans who look like Him. Your physicality is a necessary feature of the Imago Dei that equips you to act as God's representative on earth. To map out exactly what that representation looks like, we are going to build a theological wireframe of humanity, beginning with the bedrock linguistic data. Looking at the Hebrew text of Genesis 5, the word used for the first individual is Adam, but God also uses this exact same term to name the entire human race. It operates like a universal set in mathematics. The identity of the individual and the identity of the entire species are permanently locked together by the Creator's naming convention. In the New Testament, we encounter the Greek term icon, or image, but unlike a static snapshot, the New Testament verbs paired with this word, like being renewed or being changed, suggest a process of geometric transformation. It describes a dynamic trajectory where our character is continually refined toward the perfect limit of Christ's likeness. Jesus uses this same word, icon, when looking at the face engraved on this coin. He asks the Pharisees, "Whose likeness and inscription is this?" They answer, "Caesar's." In the ancient world, an image functioned as an equality operator for ownership. Bearing the image of the king meant you belonged entirely to the king. The biblical language establishes two truths simultaneously. Human identity is a permanently owned status, and for the redeemed, it is a dynamic trajectory towards perfection. Grudem breaks this image down into a massive taxonomy, starting with why we exist at all. Because God possessed perfect love and fellowship within the Trinity for all eternity, He did not create humanity out of loneliness. We were engineered specifically for His glory. We are designed to act as prisms, built to catch the invisible brilliance of God's character and refract it into the visible material world. When human sin entered the picture, it severely distorted that image, taking a masterpiece and leaving it slashed and marred. The Christian life is the process of reversing that damage, a slow, progressive resolution back into God's likeness. The final stage arrives at Christ's return, shattering the old limits of death and fully restoring the image with moral purity and physical immortality. Jesus Christ Himself serves as the ultimate architectural blueprint, the exact image of the invisible God, superimposed over our intended design. That design shows up in distinct ways. We possess a deep, internal sense of justice and moral accountability that separates us completely from basic animal responses to punishment or reward. We also have an immaterial spirit. This grants us a unique capacity to pray, to praise, and to tune in to the frequency of our Creator. Because of that spiritual life, human existence has a definitive starting point, but it will never have an end point. We extend infinitely into eternity. Mentally, there is a clear distinction between human logic and the rest of creation.
This culminates in one inescapable fact. Every single human holds this exact absolute status, regardless of their physical condition or mental capability. Humanity is a complex, multifaceted mirror, entirely distinct from the rest of the cosmos. Grudem defines the image of God as an objective, inherent status. Though we naturally default to a different system, constantly measuring human worth by observable skill and output, we apply a ruthless utilitarian metric. We calculate the value of a person based on their economic contribution, sharp intellect, or digital footprint. The consequence of this is devastating. When physical or mental faculties inevitably degrade, society quietly begins to revoke that person's dignity. The biblical framework establishes an objective status for human life. Because the image of God is an inherent feature of our design, rather than a set of functions, it ensures that human dignity remains intact even when our physical or mental capacities fail. As Wayne Grudem notes here in the text, no matter how much the image of God is marred by illness, weakness, or age, the status remains. An inability to reason or produce does not erase the divine seal of the Creator. This absolute theological protection extends to the unborn as well, rooting their dignity deeply in the sacredness of the physical creation process itself. This forces a hard look in the mirror. We have to confront our own internal impatience with the weak and our cultural obsession with idolizing the highly capable. How you treat the least capable members of society is the purest, most accurate reflection of your actual theology of the Imago Dei. Which of the 13 aspects of God's image do you think is ignored the most by modern culture? Have we been taught to only value the spiritual while ignoring the sacredness of the physical body? And how does viewing the image of God as a permanent status rather than a measurable skill change your own personal self-worth? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to continue exploring clear doctrinal deep dives, make sure to subscribe to Visualized Theology.